Hi everyone, welcome to Snowmelt Stream. No, Tactics Ogre. I'm Butlee, I'm here with Patch.
Hello, I made the snow melt into a stream.
Yep. I was gonna say my faithful co-commentator, and then I remembered last episode you were like, you could have called me this, and then I forgot what this was, so I couldn't use that either.
Well, I won't tell you this time, because that'd just be like a broken record.
Redundant.
We'd be repeating the same thing. So on this episode, we're complaining about civs.
Yeah, that's it. We never go back over things we've talked about before. Did we mention that we're Australian?
Also Pokemon.
We have a friend called War, believe it or not. Oh dear. Are we far enough into the series to be making self-depreciating jokes like that?
Well, self-depreciating, that's more like self-appreciating. I think our jokes are great.
Yeah, our friend War is fantastic.
Alright.
Alright.
Tell him you said that.
I don't. He doesn't need any more encouragement. I just think of I don't want to reference it. I just think of that line from that thing, and he's like, "I'm splendid." I don't know if you'll get that reference, but anyway. Yeah. This is.
If you got that reference, leave a comment.
Yes, I love that. I've seen it way too many times. So we moved on from civs. So today's topic. Today's topic, it's 1st of March. March. This video, I'm like 10 behind in uploading, so it probably won't be up until the end of March. But, so we wanted to pick time-sensitive things, or I did. I want to talk about, quickly, Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a thing that comes out this month. In fact, I wonder if this video will come out around about the time that comes out. I think that's this month. I'm a huge BioWare fan from Baldur's Gate days.
Why?
From the olden days. Wow, you just stole my whole fun. I took a breath to like launch into a tirade of how awesome it is, and then you just stole that from me. We ain't going anywhere far today. So, I played, obviously, Baldur's Gate. We both love Baldur's Gate. I actually never finished Baldur's Gate 2, and that was regarded as the better game. I think there was just too much going on. And I think my thing is I never played Baldur's Gate when it came out, so going back to it, I could never just play the second one. I always wanted to be like, I need to make the whole world and play 1 and 2, and probably ran out of thunder by the time I'm like 60 hours in and still playing through the second one. Patch never finished Baldur's Gate 1, so he does not understand how tough the final battle is. Seriously.
I do know the story well enough.
Regarded as probably one of the hardest final bosses ever. And I still don't know how to beat it apart from cheesing it, but anyway. I really enjoyed Star Wars, the Star Wars Coda, Knights of the Old Republic. Those games were fantastic. The first one had an amazing story, and it had one of them Final Fantasy VII twists of amazing that everyone probably knows, but I'm not going to spoil it because I want everyone who hasn't played that game to go back and enjoy it for all its glory. And the second one was better gameplay, much more polished. Story wasn't as good, but it had heart, and I kind of appreciated what they were trying to show off in that one, even if I didn't think the general story was that good. So, like that. Had a bit of a dry spell, but I definitely was massive fan of the original Dragon Age Origins.
Would you say it had a massive effect on you?
Yes. No, the next game had a massive effect on me.
No, I was gonna say that was the dragon one.
Zing. No, Dragon Age was really cool. Really enjoyed that. Everyone kind of liked that. Good mix of tactical combat, but you could also sort of make it easier and just play through and enjoy the story. Good interactions, blah blah blah, fun times. Mass Effect was amazing. I probably like the space genre better, so I've always been kind of fond of Mass Effect. Fast forward, and yeah, I'm pretty much whatever you think the general consensus on the internet is, that's where I am. Dragon Age 2 is boring. Mass Effect 3 was absolutely amazing, and then the ending made the whole series feel really cheap. Like, if that's what they were building to, because they knew it was a trilogy, that like, if that was the plan all along to have that story, then it kind of ruins the whole thing. And even if not, and they were just like push for time, and that's what they designed as they like 5 minutes. Oh, we made a witty ending, or this will be clever, and it feels too rushed and not appropriate for how good the rest of the series was. And then Dragon Age 3 was cool, but it was a lot of fluff, and I don't know, I don't know. The general notion I get out of that is that it was great, but it just sort of was like hard to get really enthusiastic, maybe because of the Mass Effect 3 thing. Excuse me. Maybe just because it was like decent, but not as amazing as their other installments.
Oh! That hit.
Bam. That crit. Is that Martine again? That's Martine again. Archers make this game really easy, apparently, so I'm gonna try and avoid using so much Martine. Actually, I think, and I'm not 100% sure, I think high-level crossbows are better late game, because the game gets a lot more like vertical, and crossbows are better at handling that, whereas archers need the arc to land shots.
Yeah.
And crossbows are also good for counter-attacking because of that exact reason, whereas archers can't always do that. So I think crossbows really good. Anyway, point is I'm going to try not to have too many. I know that we're basically spamming with Martine, Gilbert, you know, Canopus and stuff like that, but I'm going to try and use Canopus as melee a bit more, and I don't mind having, say, Gilbert as an archer because he's a rune fencer, and I don't mind having Sarah at the back there as a ninja who's an archer, you know what I mean? Because they're not going to get massive archery skills like a pure archer would. Martine, I'll probably try and use her a bit more sparingly as we get going. For now, she's just carrying because I want to get the archer class up because we have a really tough battle coming, and I'm not ready for it. But I want to go back to Mass Effect 4. I don't actually have a lot to say. I haven't followed it a lot. I'm not going to get it because I think I might have mentioned before a few things that I'm starting to see about it I don't like. For one, I am probably not actually sold on the going to another universe, and like, I like the story and the all-encompassing elements of it. I feel like this is almost like a reset, and fair enough, but I kind of wish they'd found a way to integrate the story better, which again they probably couldn't have done because of what they did to Mass Effect 3, which is just another slight on how bad that ending was. And so what I'm laughing about though, my whole point in talking about this right now is I'm laughing so hard because they literally, for this one, Mass Effect 4, Mass Effect Andromeda, I don't know.
Andromeda?
Andromeda? I don't even know what that word is, so whatever.
I think it's the name of a galaxy.
Ah, it's a made-up word. That's why I can't pronounce it. It probably means something, and I'm just terrible at English.
No, I think it's literally just a real galaxy.
Okay. Damn you scientists for tricking me. It's funny because the story actually takes place at the end of, I think it's in between the end of Mass Effect 2 and some of the DLC that was post Mass Effect 2 ending. And so the Reapers never showed up yet, and they sent these scout ships to like find other colonies, and that's hilarious to me because they basically, for the next trilogy, because I'm assuming this would be a trilogy, that's the whole thing, right? I think they've basically just wiped out Mass Effect 3 from the timeline. Like, for all intents and purposes, it didn't happen. The next 10 years of Mass Effect are going to ignore that ever happened. And that cracks me up more than anything. Like, they just wiped it out. They just went, you know what? We fucked up that ending and it ruined all our future story plans. Let's just ignore it. Forget it. Don't worry about it. And it's so bad.
Yep.
And the other thing that annoys me is, because like, the thing is, you made all these choices. Like, you picked the races you liked, you picked the characters you like, you know, and you're kind of hoping that they would use this opportunity to let you play as more people. So it'd be nice to have, say, 2 Krogan people if you like the Krogans, because they're like massive warriors, or you know, more Asari because you went all the effort of saving them, or Geth because you like the way they tell the story of the hive mind and things like that. Nope, they're like reset. There's like barely any Krogan out here, barely any of these. It's barely like it's just this really ugly, pointless reset, and I'm really disappointed that that's the way they went with it. So
Oh well.
that's just it's just like a little thing, and it's not a big deal. But you got to remember, the whole point of the Mass Effect is to immerse yourself in the experience. And if you have things like that where you know you're not going to be able to, then you're not going to be able to enjoy it. And that's why I'm not ready to shell out my $100 Australian to do that.
And it will be $100 Australian.
Oh,
We're not even
up.
talking.
I'm an Origin member, and I still can't get it cheaper than $100.
Yeah, we're not talking about collector's edition. We're just talking about the base game. The Overwatch was $90 Australian, and that was basically an online-only game.
Australia pays, like, in the past, Australia's always paid for like shipping and stuff like that for physical goods, and so that's fine. As we move towards digital, things never really got cheaper. Like, well, there was this period where some non-AAA sort of stuff got cheaper, but then everything AAA just stayed at this price as if we were still paying for shipping.
The problem is Steam tried to do stuff cheaper for Australia, and then they got in trouble with the consumer watchdog because it was anti-competitive.
Right, because they were fighting against, yeah. But now it's like physical medium is going away slowly, you know?
Yeah.
It's the if there's Americans watching the GameStop problem, how do they stay relevant in this era? We've got Australian companies with the same sort of problems, like Sanity Music, for example. I don't know if they're worldwide or Australian or what, but they're struggling. Yeah. How do they survive in this world of digital distribution? You know, they don't sell CDs anymore. They sell a lot of DVDs, but even that's fading out. Like, it's crazy.
Now you got Netflix, and you don't even need to buy a box set of DVDs.
Well, let me tell that story, because we're segueing about... This is just waffle territory. So I like watching the superhero shows, so we're talking like TV shows, so we're talking like Arrow, Flash, blah, 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 all those things. And I was talking to a guy in America, or Canada, might be America, and he was saying...
They're basically the same.
I just mean like somewhere where all this stuff is figured out, whereas opposed to Australia where we kind of haven't, we're kind of behind in figuring all this stuff out. And he was telling me about the latest episode, and I'm like, dude, I don't have the Fox channel here that runs it in real time, and so I can't watch it in real time, and I wouldn't be around at the times that it's on anyway, right? So he said, oh, that's fine. What you can do is you go to this service and you pay their subscription or whatever, and then you get it. No, he said the channel that runs it over there shows it for free, streams it for free, like 24 hours after it's been on. Yeah. Because, you know, anyone who... Obviously, they get their ratings on the channel, and then they stream it for free because, you know, you're not going to get those ratings back if they've already missed it. So if you miss it, it's more like if you miss it, you can catch up on it. In Australia, I don't know if you can do that, so I started looking up, like, the Fox package, which is our local company that would do that. And it's expensive. You can't buy just a package just for drama shows like that. You have to spend, like, 60 or 80 bucks for a whole range of things that I just won't watch, like sport.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And that's why I don't have that. And so, then I said, alright, look, fair enough. Let's have a look at how else I could access these things, like, and this is my point. So, Microsoft have a thing. I can go on there and, like, buy the package to stuff, and then at the end of every season, they'll get, like, a box set that I'm essentially buying a digital box set of these shows. Apple have a thing, right? You can go on Apple and basically buy it again. Buy physical things as if they're like a product. Buy digital things as if they're a physical product. The next one was Google. I think Google Play is the thing. And so I'm looking like straight away at like, and that's without the Fox service. So I'm looking at like 4 or 5 different distribution things, and they're all sort of fighting for this sort of digital kind of, I don't know exactly how this is going to go in the future kind of thing. And it's just amazing that, you know, it's what I keep saying, we just haven't figured it out so much as Australia, whereas in America it's like, you watch the show because you have that channel, and then if you don't, you just log into your account on that channel online and catch it afterwards. It's like,
you know what?
Actually, no.
Near where I live, there's still a video store. You can still rent out DVDs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I don't mind. Like, that's a thing. It's starting to die out, though. But those sort of things still exist. It's probably not as many because I'm in the city here. There's probably some kicking around, but you have to look for it. Also, I like what I did there. You know how I'm always like,
couldn't recruit
join me or die?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. So anyway, that's my my thing with distribution. And when so to swing that back, we were talking about Origin and digital distribution. So in Australia, you pay like full price because we've always had to compete with physical goods. And now that we're creating all these services that are selling digital products as if they're physical goods, like you can't buy 3 episodes of Arrow, you have to buy like the whole season or a season pass, and then you get the digital version that represents having a physical copy of the season. You know, you used to go into the store and buy a digital pack or whatever. Sorry, a seasonal pack. And my point is that the prices won't ever go down. And what's worse in Australia now is that we're going to start applying our consumer tax, our goods and services tax, to games. So everything goes up even more by like another 10%. So the government will start taking a cut on everything. And again, no one minds, like, tax is part of our life. We pay tax on everything. So you kind of just stop whinging about it and deal with it. But we're already paying like exorbitant amounts compared to the rest of the world for stuff that doesn't cost more to get to us. And so now we're basically getting slapped twice, and we're paying like 10% on the goods, but it also feels like you're paying tax on like all that extra effort that you're paying that you don't need to pay in the first place, if that makes sense. If it was say a $60 game and you'd pay $6 in tax, well, Australia's selling it for $100 based on the old physical shipping costs. So you're paying $10 in tax, so you're paying extra tax on top of paying the extra cost. And it just, once it starts stacking up, you end up paying so much excess, and consumers basically get hurt from it.
Yep.
It's crazy. Australia gets into the digital world, and we're going backwards and hurting consumers. It should be easier for consumers and better.
If that is one thing I've noticed about business and business trends these days, is that it is the consumer that pays the price for any new cost that needs to come up. It's not companies, it's not businesses, it's the consumer. Paid mods, consumers pay for that. Businesses get a piece of that pie, modders get some money, consumers pay the price, and so on and so forth. That digital distribution, DLC, all of it's just consumer pays money.
GST unto itself was to put the tax back on the consumer, take it away from companies, things like that. So yeah, it just. But you're right. The world is very. There's no goodwill in business these days. I mean, I wonder if, to a degree, consumers have to earn it, because let's face it, you know, we're not always nice people, especially on the internet, where a lot of digital kind of work happens these days.
Well, no, I was thinking about this recently, right? About businesses and that whole concept of, you know, like not being very consumer friendly. And what I was thinking is, when a new business starts up, it's usually, you know, one or a few people starting this business, and they're, you know, a dedicated group. They try hard, they build up the business, and if it's successful, then it's either bought by a bigger group or it's passed on to someone else. And the first person who started that business, whatever business it might have been, there's a good chance they were doing it because they saw a need or because they were passionate about it. They were doing it, you know, because it was something they thought of to do. And that means they put in a certain amount of care and effort and dedication into it. And anyone who picks it up beyond them, there's a chance that they'll just pick it up because it looks profitable, because it's currently very successful, and that sort of thing. Like if someone passes it on to their son, you know, a father goes, you know, I want you to take up the family business. I know that doesn't happen as much anymore, but if that's the sort of thing, you know, say they've got like a gardening company, and this company keeps growing and growing, and then the son takes over, and as your business is more successful and keeps growing, well, you have to hire more employees, more work goes into the administration, and the more and more this goes up the ranks, the bigger your business gets, until it's, you know, a huge corporation. The person in charge is no longer, say, a gardener who knows all about gardening. They're now an administrator who's job is profits. And even if it's the same family 2 or 3 generations down, the focus of what the business is has shifted from gardening to profits. And that's just something I think happens in business. It's something that, you could probably say about most big businesses. Any rags to riches story would have started off as a small thing and then just grew and grew and grew.
Let me tie this in. A perfect real-world example. So topical on the eve of... I'm a football fan. Soccer, round ball, to anyone out there who's not European or Australian. Basically, if you're American, you play soccer. That's what I'm talking about. Last night, a few of the Australian teams played in the Asian Champions League. And that's kind of a big deal for us because it's a lot of money, a lot of opportunity to show off our players to the world and get good experience against not Australian teams, blah, blah, blah. Great stuff. All the Aussie teams got flogged. And it's basically opened up what everyone already knew. Oh, you haven't seen many of these? These are sword techniques. Which are a bit funny, but we'll see the swordsman class at some point. I'll whip one up. I think I'm just short of a lot of class marks, and I'll probably get a few this chapter, and I can start showing off some of those classes. They're kind of like ninjutsu, but they do different things.
Yeah. So,
basically, it opened up a can of worms that Australian football has a lot of issues. And without going into all those things, they kind of hinge around how to make the game a little bit more profitable and how to open up the game to more people. Australia's quite a large geographical area to cover, and we only have 10 professional top league clubs, and that's obviously not enough to sustain a proper Premier League in Australia. And so they've recently came out, and the FFA, which is our governing body, Football Federation Australia, said we're going to expand, but we haven't got any plans for it. And this is I've had a year saying, yeah, we need to expand, and now they've said, oh, it probably won't be until 2019 because we haven't figured it out yet. And they've said we can't figure out a model that makes it financially viable. And I get it, there's not as much money in football because we share soccer football with a lot of the rugby codes and a lot of other sports in Australia. But one thing I gotta say is that the CEO of Football Federation Australia, hey, I think we just got a swordswoman.
Her hair changed colour.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
We threw green clothes at her. We just threw her a box of paint at her and saw what happens. Master of the two-handed katana. See, that's cool. I like the sword master class. And you see they have these sword dance things.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's got a lot of Asian influence. So, my point is, the guy who's in charge of Federation of Australia, who's making these, obviously cautious decisions, not bold decisions. He's not coming into soccer and saying, here's a bold idea of how we're going to step forward into the new world and expand our game. He's saying we need to be cautious and we need to step back and get, dot all our I's, cross all our T's before we step out and do anything bold. And his previous job before being the CEO of soccer was to be the CEO of the National Rugby League. And so you're saying to me right now, and how this is relevant, is that the people running business isn't always someone who has a passion for the particular thing that they're doing. He is obviously, he might love soccer, he might love rugby, but he doesn't have a singular massive passion for one. He's obviously a businessman who's had the opportunity to, when he finished at rugby, Football Federation Australia said, well, he's a good businessman, we need a businessman to run our thing, let's get him. And I think, some of the complaints about him, and not just him, it's not this one guy copping all the flack, it's the whole group, because they have a committee who decides this stuff. But you can't help but feel yeah, those guys making those decisions aren't football fans, and they haven't got the ambition, or they don't understand the machinations between how football works to really, make bold calls. They're saying things like, we as a governing body can't afford new clubs because we don't think they'll be self-sustaining, because that way we'll have to put too much money into them to get them up and running, and we can't afford that. So we need to think of business ventures to make that work. Oh, I wanted to show off that ability. He cast Preempt.
Yeah, he attacks first.
which is cool. That's unique to the swordsman.
Yeah.
And so yeah, their decision is we can't afford it. There's not enough money. We're not going to do it. But the counter argument from myself and from people who I respect as knowing a thing or two about football itself and knowing the state of football in Australia, they're saying the phrase used last night with one of the commentators was, "If you build it, they will come." And so our mentality is stop shying away from expanding the competition and getting more teams and trying to make it more inclusive because of money. Do it, throw it out there, and you watch the Australian community will make it work because we love the game. And that's the difference between a businessman making a decision based on numbers and balances and checks and things like that, and the passion of the sporting world saying, we're Australia, we love our sport, you need to give us the opportunity. And that's the difference between what you're saying. And that mentality is the same that you're saying flows on into other aspects, like someone making a gaming business or makes a game, and it's no longer about can I make the game and can I make it affordable for people because I just want everyone to play my masterpiece, a la Minecraft.
Yeah. And
it's like, well, now how do I sell that to the most people? Or someone's bought me out and they just want to make money off my product, or yeah.
And now is probably a good time to mention that the creators of Mass Effect 1, by the time Mass Effect 3 had rolled around, basically all the writers and many of the other contributing creators of Mass Effect 1 were actually gone. Certainly outnumbered if there were even many of them left. But yeah, most of the creative direction come Mass Effect 3, completely new. Completely, not new completely, but I mean like since Mass Effect 2 they'd started showing up, and many of them hadn't even been there for Mass Effect 1. And I feel like that does tell a story in itself. Maybe Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 were written in full before they started making all three games, but the fact that the creators in the first one, the thing that kicked it off and made it so popular, weren't there by the third one, it sort of
showed. I don't think it was. I think that's probably the biggest problem I had, is that I think it wasn't written ahead of time. The thing is with Mass Effect, what you gotta understand is it's not a normal trilogy where you created a game like say The Witcher and it just kicked off and it became like your flagship and then you just kept making them. Mass Effect 3, because of BioWare's previous titles and success, Mass Effect 3 was approved as a trilogy before the first one even came out. Now, I'm not saying that that it might not have been cancelled, so they still had to make the first game a story, which is why you had a decent story. But
yeah,
that's how they were able to set up things like the growing Reaper threat and things like that. And
sure,
they should have been planning for the trilogy from the get-go, and I don't think they did. The second Mass Effect 2, amazing game. The story has no impact on the wider trilogy. I'm sure I've shown you that little chart that says here's the thing and here's the timeline or the storyline of Mass Effect, and in the middle there's like this horseshoe, and that whole horseshoe of events in the timeline is Mass Effect 2, because they don't and by the end of it you're basically back where you started. The Reapers are coming, you haven't changed anything, you haven't the Citadel still exists, you basically just reset. And it just...
I understand, and agree. I think it might have been because they brought in this new staff. The games can still be good, by the way, and I don't believe that they hired bad writers, but I feel like what's happened is they took the writers they had and siphoned them out for different writers for many different reasons. Maybe for money, maybe because they just wanted new talent, maybe they wanted fresh ideas, They cycled them out, and that leaves it with these new writers. They might be competent at writing characters and stories and doing things like that, but whether they wrote the same story that the original writers would have written,
yeah, that's right,
and
do they
had
have
the same idea.
I think the thing is though, like, just why didn't they take those original writers and write the trilogy?
Yeah.
And just why didn't you do that? Like, I wonder, like, did you ever write the Mass Effect story on day one and say the story is focus on Commander Shepard, things happen, you meet people, blah blah blah. Reapers are coming. Collectors in the middle because they somehow explain the Reapers, and then Reapers come. Like, and then you have the ending where it's like you make the choice to do these three things. Like, did they plan that out from the start? It all feels like they tacked on each part of the story, in each game, 1, 2, and 3. I don't think they ever sat down at the start and said, here's the Reaper thread in the first one, here's how we resolve it in the third one. Those two things weren't written at the same time. They were written 10 years apart, you know?
One of
the development of the game.
One of the complaints I've seen, I don't know the games personally, I haven't played through them, so, you know, don't quote me on any of this, but one of the complaints I've actually seen was that the Prometheans changed from the first game, or even the second game, to the third game. In their early appearances, there were statues of them, of these ancient-looking and very alien creatures. And then come the third game, they were actually ended up being quite humanoid. I don't know, is that true? Is that something you can reflect in your own experiences, or is that something you haven't heard of?
I think someone would have had to have looked really hard at early, lesser graphics to try and say that they looked wrong. I think there are things you could say about the Prometheans that, yeah, their vision of what they were and what they ended up being is different. But I don't know if the physical appearance is the one you'd pick.
Well, the statues was the big point, was they weren't humanoid in shape. I think the upper half was sort of humanoid, and then the lower half was something entirely different. I mean, it could, again, you could write that off as nothing. But
see,
yeah, it was
something like that, because it's just a physical appearance thing, I almost would say I'd let that off in the sense of maybe we got it wrong. Like, no one in our universe met a Promethean. So, if they built statues of them, you know, it's like building a statue of, excuse me for bringing this into the conversation, a statue of Jesus. Well, how do we know what he really looked like?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll link you the pictures I can find of this exact thing after we're done with the video, and maybe you can get something out of it.
Maybe we can elaborate in another video. I'm not sure. The thing with the Prometheans is they were a bit of a, and spoilers, whatever, they were a bit of a fake out. See, we regaled them as being like the pioneers of the world and amazing and like basically everything that our universe aspired to be, and it turns out they were just another race, and they had technology and they were better, and they were like a bit snobbish. They were like the scholars, the Asari are like, well, scholars who wanted to replicate the Prometheans, and the Prometheans just thought they were idiots and stuff like that. And like, they turned out to be not the glorious heroes that we thought they were. They were just another warlike people who kind of imploded as well. Like, for all their pride, they probably destroyed themselves as well as they just, you know, the Reapers destroyed them and stuff. So there was a bit of a head fake on, you know, but that was mostly there's a head fake on what we thought they were and what they ended up being like, but that was deliberate. That was the story they were trying to tell. But I don't know about physical appearance. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that I don't know if I ever specifically said to myself, you know, without outside bias, I don't know if I specifically ever said to myself, oh, that looks wrong. That's not what I imagined, so I might not have noticed, or maybe it's not that big a deal. Anyway,
who knows?
You listen to me whinge about a lot of different things, and we kind of just jumped all over the place, but we did some training. Haven't actually recorded the next episode, don't know what we're doing next. I think I want to go north actually, and maybe I'll try some new dudes out. I'd love to get a Beastmaster out there because I know there's some dragons up there somewhere. There we go. Anyway, thanks for your time, and yeah, we'll catch you next time around. That'll be episode 40. Wow, 40 episodes. What is this crazy nonsense?
Thank you for joining us.
Yep, peace out.